Greetings, it's Mark Postles here, and I wanted to address the topic of attraction. So, what is it that causes some people to attract the very best of everything, and people and places and times and events, and others always just seem to get the bad stuff? Let's have a look at it. This is a place where those who suspect they're innately wise, brilliant and powerful come to learn how to transform their lives, one cognition, one realization, and one blinding flash of the obvious at a time. We are the innovators, the record breakers, the world makers and creators of all kinds. We supersede the suppressive worldview of mass ignorance and awaken the strength within. We are waking up to our innate secrets. My name is Dr. Mark Postles, and welcome to the Innate Secrets podcast. So, attraction's defined generally as the action or power of evoking interest in or liking for someone or something. So, let's maybe just look at nature, because I think, in any situation really that comes down to human behavior, to organization and structure of things that are man-made, it behooves us to look to nature and just see what lessons nature has there for us, because I'm firmly of the belief that within nature is and the microcosm of nature is the understanding of the mechanisms and the functioning of the macrocosm of all that is as a result of nature. So everything man's ever made is built on that structural foundation of nature. So anyway, so if we look at it from the point of maybe say a flower or a plant that flowers and requires visitors to be the carriers for their reproduction. So the flower makes sure that it's attractive. I mean, its life depends on it being attractive in some way. Now, it has to attract something to it, and particularly if we're talking about flowers that rely on pollination from insects. And so, this flower sees the value of gorgeousness. It sees the value of beauty, and maybe not consciously, obviously, but there's a flow with that, and it's consistent with that, and it produces aromas and it nurtures its target by providing the sweet stuff for it. So, and that way gets the what it needs. So, the essence then of being attractive is not so much going after things. Like the flower stays still; it doesn't chase after its needs. It doesn't go down and put its leaves around a bee and force it into its flower to grab the pollen. It attracts them, and attraction works in the present. It's not in the future, it's right now. And that, I think, is a really useful example for us to take on board in that the flower doesn't go looking into the future. It looks at how well it can be presented right now. And so probably one of the things and I just want to go through maybe just a few key points of attraction here. No particular order of importance. It's no hierarchy here. However, it probably behooves us to the very outset here to recognize ourselves, because if we it's very difficult to attract others if we don't feel irresistibly attracted to ourselves. And that's in a situation where it's not about big noting ourselves. It's not about getting out there and shouting it from the rooftops. It's that inner knowing of that we are okay. And the internal dialogue that human beings do often is contrary to that. In fact, it's been said that the majority of internal dialogue for most people is of a negative sort. Berating oneself or running oneself down or being critical about self. And that all detracts from attractiveness. So it detracts from us being able to accept self and to be that attractive, gorgeous, beautiful, aromatic, nurturing essence that we can be and that we are. So being aware of your self-talk, being aware of that little voice inside that goes ballistic sometimes and runs you down and calls you worthless, then that's a useful thing to be tracking on. Now, the concept of this then is that if we're a vacuum, we'll pull in towards us. Whereas if we are going out and chasing, it creates a resistance. And so trying to make people like us is counterproductive. It's about feeling comfortable in our own skin and allowing those people that are right for us to be attracted towards us. I have a friend who, for many, many years, in fact, tens of years now, is always chasing after attention. And she just goes from one person to another, and they get repelled by her. There's too much neediness there, and others don't allow that to. It's not attractive to an individual to have someone who is really, really, really keen and over keen. And so, particularly in a relationship, it tends to be quite off-putting. So, allowing ourselves to be comfortable in our own skin and allowing a push-pull to occur. So, there's a bit of a lean in, but there's also a pull back, and it's a state of not needing, of not having to have. So, within that context, then it's also about being able to respond rather than react. Now, we're going through two phases at all times, one of two phases at all times. One is we're evolving, the other is we're devolving. As we go through a proactive, forward step in our life or in any one moment, and we feel good, we have a win, we feel comfortable within ourselves, we know that we're on the right track, we're being intuitive, we tend to evolve. And we then get confronted and presented with challenges at a greater dimension than the ones before. And if we respond and we allow that to occur, and we do it with curiosity and joy, we then keep evolving. However, if we over-respond and overreact, then we devolve. And that's not a very useful situation, because it puts us down into a low level of vibration. So, allowing ourselves to be wherever we are at any point in time, in my experience, is a very, very useful thing, and it's without judgment of self. We can judge our behaviours. We may have made a mistake that allowed us to have something not useful happen to us, but we still acknowledge ourselves as being a useful, valuable, beautiful, gorgeous individual. And within this context, then, it's okay to be wrong and for others to be right. And it may well be that a lot of the time we are wrong by certain judgments. And as long as we're not looking at justifying our position, we can allow ourselves to be wrong and for others to be right, and that then allows us to come back to center. So it's defense is a very damaging component when it comes to being attractive. Being aware of the abundance that we have and that we're immersed in is critical, in that it's not about the stuff. It's about the essence of who we are and how we see the world. And if we see the world in a state of plenty, then it allows us to flow with that. It's not that we have to have it or control it, but because we don't have to have it, then we tend to have it drawn towards us. And so that also speaks to other people. So having interest in others. And the more you touch others, and not necessarily just physically touch, but the more you touch their hearts and their souls and their minds, the more attractive you'll become. So compliments, acknowledgements, and listening, and recognizing that their life is important to them. I've got a good friend who is just the exquisite example of this. She compliments everybody. She'll always find something to compliment a person about, be it their clothes, be it their hairstyle, be it the way they handle certain situations, or even the job that they do. And I've heard her say to a cleaning lady, "Thank you so much for what you do. This allows this place to be so much better because you exist." And to watch the smile on that person's face and how they puff themselves up because of that. And it's something I think I speak for myself, that I tend to take things for granted at times, and I tend not to always apply compliments and acknowledgements. When they are most needed. And in fact, at all times there's a need for them. There's an opportunity, I should say, for them, and to allow ourselves just to take that opportunity and to do for someone something that they may be not doing for themselves, and certainly other people aren't doing for them either. So being willing to acknowledge and accept your talents as well, as I mentioned before, without skiding or big noting. And if you're not willing to accept compliments and not willing to take on board that you are doing a good job, or that the clothes that you've chosen are well matching, and if someone says, "Oh, I love your jacket," and you come from a position of, "Well, it's nothing really, I just got it quickly, went down the road and I had to get something quick to wear," that's a denial of a compliment, and there's a reduction in one's attractiveness when we do that. So being aware of the fact that our ability to own our own state is a very attractive component of a human being. Now, on the outflow side of it, then it's always about over-delivering. And when you add value because you enjoy it, people are naturally attracted to you. So in this context, it's about being a go-giver, being always willing to just go that extra little bit, be willing to do something for someone that they would not have expected. And it's the little things. It's not the huge stuff. It's not giving them a huge amount of money or anything like that. It's simply just the little things that make such a big difference to a person in their normal life. Waving someone across in front of you in the car, or letting someone in when they're wanting to merge into your lane, and just little stuff like that can make a huge difference to that person's day. So be that go-giver, and in that context also be responsive. That communication flow that is fast and it's even and it's smooth is much more efficient than if it's held up at various ports along the way. And so fast turnaround is a critical component there, and for most of us, time is expensive, and if our time gets blocked, then that's an unattractive factor. So getting the emails turned around, getting texts turned around, getting phone messages turned around, so that we respond quickly. And I'm sure you've noticed that if you get a message in from someone and you reply to it sometimes almost straight away, so you're waiting for it to arrive and you get straight back, that person very, very often pays compliment to that. They said, "Thank you so much for getting back to me," and blah blah blah. So it's noticed, and it's something that that builds this trust and this bonding with people. So the key to this, and most of these points that I think we've made here, are about taking care of the details. And I think it was Einstein who said that God is in the details. So it's all the subtleties, the details and nuances that are more attractive than the obvious. It's the little things that make the huge difference. in this area. So I think, though, the biggest one, to sum this up, the biggest point here in the attractiveness stakes is you've got to get your own personal needs met. If we're lacking something, if we're needing something, if we have unmet needs, we'll attract others in the same position. So if we're needy, if we're lonely, if we're lost, if we're melancholy, if we have something that's that we haven't met, then we're going to attract people in that have the same sort of energy going. So it's not about them, it's about us. And so, as Jim Rohn said, and I'll sum it up with this, is that to attract attractive people, you must be attractive. To attract powerful people, you must be powerful. To attract committed people, you must be committed. So instead of going to work on them, you got to work on yourself. If you become, you can attract. So consider that as you go about your week. Consider your power of attraction. Consider that as you go about this whole month, actually, because we'll be coming back to this on a number of occasions. And also in this context, it is about building it slowly. And there's little mini steps along the way. So small details, and they add up. And what we have, if you haven't been aware of this, is a portal in which you can venture into all things attractive, and that's the innate central. It's a treasure trove of all that builds your innate knowledge and your acceptance and your expression of that wonderful you that sits on the inside of you, and from time to time gets a little bit sideways and can use a little bit of correction, a little bit of new information, a bit of acknowledgement, and that's what the innate central is all about. So it's a membership area, and where all things innate are spoken, and we'd love to have you there. So come on over to the innate central, and that will be a great little haven for you to come and develop your knowledge around the innate model and the associated functions and behaviors that go along with that. So anyway, come on into the innate central when you get some time, and spend some time with us there. I'm sure you'll be really, really happy with what you find there. So I'm Dr. Mark Postles, and until next time, be brilliant.